Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of Rebound Studio, a podcast series where we engage with industry leaders and engage on thought-provoking conversations on a variety of issues that are pertinent to travel, transportation, and hospitality industry. This is Subbu. I lead all the data and analytics initiatives for our customers in Americas. And I'm very pleased to have with me today Benjamin Singleton. We call him Ben, and who is the director for data sciences and analytics within JetBlue Airways. And he's here to share with us the exciting world of data analytics for airlines. Before we get into the Q&A, I would request Ben to give a quick introduction about himself and the work he does with JetBlue. Over to you, Ben.
Thanks very much, Subbu. I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about all these topics that I'm very passionate about. By way of introduction, I lead the data team at JetBlue. This encompasses our data engineering teams that focus on real-time data streams, our data warehouse and associated products in that data infrastructure space, our business intelligence team, which is responsible for reporting and dashboard building, our data science team, which is building our AI and ML models, and lastly, our data ops team, which really focuses on the overall health of this data ecosystem and also helps out with some of our DevOps practices as well. So yeah, super excited to be here today and looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Ben. And data and analytics have been finding a lot of application within the airline industry traditionally, especially in the operations research areas such as cruise scheduling, network optimization, and revenue management. In your view, what are the new frontiers of data analytics and its applications within airlines?
It's a great question. I mean, the way that we typically think about where we can better leverage data and machine learning is really in three areas. The first, as you suggested, is around the airline. As you know, we run on razor-thin margins. It's a difficult business, and every 1 minute that we can cut out of the schedule or ensure that on-time performance has real bottom-line impact. So there's a whole number of use cases that we can talk about in that area. A second area that's very much on our mind is on the commercial side of the business. Generally, this falls into two buckets. First and foremost is the customer experience side. How can we provide to you this personalized experience where everything from the process of purchasing with us through to your experience traveling with us feels like we know you as a brand and are offering you what you would expect? Of course, another part of the commercial business is around pricing, right? We are selling, roughly 1,000 flights a day, out 331 days, a whole number of products in addition to airfare. How can we get at more dynamic, more continuous type pricing? And that's an area where I think machine learning can really come in and play a big role. And lastly, of course, is on the corporate side, whether it's talent acquisition and hiring, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, or just our internal cost management and other things along those lines. That's generally speaking how we think about data operations, commercial and customer, and internal operations, or more the corporate side of things.
Thank you, Ben. I would like to ask you one question about how you have been looking at the customer side of it, because airline being a very service-oriented industry, a customer is obviously the heart of what we do. How does JetBlue kind of leverage data and analytics to understand customer better and to personalize the end-to-end experience of customer?
Yeah, thanks, Subbu. I think that where this begins for us, we use this term, the travel ribbon, where we sort of really dissect every moment of the process of somebody having an experience with JetBlue. That begins when you start to think about where you might want to take a trip or a vacation. And so how can we know that you might be thinking about wanting to take a trip? How can we maybe surface to you new routes or destinations that might be interesting? Maybe you're somebody who likes to go to the beach. Maybe you're somebody who likes to ski, or maybe you're someone that just visits family every Thanksgiving or some other holiday that's important to you and your family. So it all begins sort of in the stage of how can we surface to you relevant offers and inspiration to want you to make you want to travel with us. Once you've actually completed that booking and have decided to fly with us, there's all this anticipation coming up to the flight. Do I have exactly what I need? Am I a customer that likes to have more space? Am I somebody who wants to reduce all the frictions in the airport and get through the security line and the boarding process ahead of other folks? So we can start to surface to you once again experiences and products in this space that will give you the experience you would like. Now you're on the plane itself. What are the sorts of things that you like? Are you somebody who wants a snack? Are you somebody who wants a cocktail? What do you want to watch on your in-flight entertainment? And of course, after you've landed, how do we get you thinking about that next trip with us? So there's different data elements that we need to collect at every part. And we have to do a lot of behavioral analysis to understand, the way Subbu thinks about traveling might be different than the way I think about it. And so we have to make sure that we're contacting you in a way that doesn't feel spammy, but actually feels like the brand knows you. And ultimately use that to help deliver this customer experience where you feel, wow, JetBlue I really felt like they knew what I was looking for in this experience, and they also delivered on it.
That was great, Ben. And I just wanted to bring up another important point of conversation here. The frequent flyer programs have been traditionally the way the airline understands customers and try to kind of make the interactions personalized. But today, you know that frequent flyer programs covers a very small subset of your customer. And there is a huge percentage of customers who are not your frequent flyer program members as such. How do you see, JetBlue kind of evolving to embrace all known as well as unknown customers as a part of your customer database? How do you do that?
Yeah. What you said is exactly true. I mean, we have a great loyalty program. Folks love the TrueBlue program. They love to have our co-brand credit card, and a lot of JetBlue fans are real JetBlue fanatics, and we love our customers for that fact. But as you mentioned, not everybody is enrolled in our loyalty program. And so we really need to think about, if we want to offer you a personalized experience, and maybe you fly with us once a year, but you haven't enrolled in the program, we have to think about understanding your interests and your desires as well. So we leverage tools like customer master data management, where we're able to do fuzzy matching across customer profile information, so that we can assign Subbu effectively a customer ID number known to JetBlue. So if you're calling up a customer support center or you're on an aircraft, even if you might not be enrolled in the TrueBlue program, we want to say, thanks for flying with us. How was your flight to the Bahamas last year? Right? Or, we understand that you like to have more space when you fly. Would you like to upgrade to an even more space seat? So I think you bring up a good point, which is that there are a lot of, quote unquote, anonymous customers, but internally we're able to do that customer mastering and resolution in order to understand them, hopefully just as well as we might know somebody who's a loyal customer to us.
Yeah, that's a very brilliant point, Ben. I think moving on to another related topic, you did bring up in the earlier part of the discussion that on the commercial side of it, such as pricing and ancillary sales, you're doing a lot of, you're looking at a lot of innovation there based on data and analytics. So would you like to kind of give us a little bit more color on that in terms of what kind of innovation is possible in pricing and ancillary sales?
Sure. I mean, I think that there's two big areas worth covering. One, at least historically, the way that airfare has been priced, generally speaking, has been around sort of past performance. You look at past booking curves and you use that information to make estimates to help guide your decisions when you're pricing a flight today. But in this world where, the amount of data that's available to us is exploding, I think the real secret sauce here involves integrating new data sets that weren't previously considered or integrated to the extent that maybe they should be, right? We can know about the demand for a particular flight or a particular route given bookings, but we can also know that based on people's search behavior, right? But maybe people are searching for a route and they're getting to the booking page, but they're deciding not to book for some reason. Alternatively, maybe we're seeing, the opposite occurring. Either way, we really need to think about integrating signals from different sources, competitor schedules, competitor booking information, web traffic. I think that is going to be what takes us to the next level as airlines evolve out of sort of using past booking curves in order to inform new ones. The other area that I think is part of the secret sauce is really around dynamic and continuous pricing. We probably need a few more hours to really talk about how pricing in the airline industry works, but it's safe to say it is not as dynamic as we would like, and it doesn't always move the way Amazon prices might move by a penny up or down hundreds of times a day. We don't quite have the flexibility for a number of structural reasons. But I think that in some areas, particularly around ancillaries, ancillaries still haven't even caught up to the behavior on the airfare side, right? How can we think about using the days to departure? How can we think about using days of week and other elements of the flight details in order to better inform prices? So I think all of this is coming together to say pricing is still ripe for disruption. And of course, with the key for JetBlue is to always provide these low, highly competitive fares where our customers are not only getting a great product, but also flying at a value that feels right to them.
Sure. I was kind of quite intrigued with your earlier point, Ben, that the airlines run off thin margins and every minute counts. And you know that the airline operations is a very complex area involving a lot of stakeholders and collaborators, who has to come together to make those crucial outcomes, such as the aircraft turn and flight operations and ground operations and so on. How do you see the new world of application of data and analytics to kind of improve those areas of the business?
It's a great question. I think that a lot of this lies in really sophisticated and detailed data collection and collaboration. So I think the key around, for example, the turn of an aircraft lands, we've got 40 minutes to get it prepared, to get back in the air again, to take our next set of customers wherever they're hoping to go. During that turn of 40 minutes, I usually like to talk about it like an orchestra. You've got cleaners coming on board. You've got the folks adding fresh water to the aircraft. You've got the caterers bringing the snacks. I mean, it is a complicated dance that needs to happen. And of course, you also have people separated by physical space. You have gate agents standing at a gate. You've got ground operations folks loading bags in. How do you ensure that everyone is informed and is making the right next best decision at any given time, right? Because small breaks in communication might end up causing a few minutes to slip up here or there. So I think one of the keys on the operational side is going to be around collecting very detailed data around the turn. And there's some interesting applications of using computer vision to know, oh, the fueling truck has arrived or the catering truck is now pulling away, and using that to inform the people involved in that turn so that they know at every given moment what exactly is happening. That way they can keep our customers informed, but also keep everything moving as quickly as we'd like.
Yeah, that was a great point there. And with increasing capture of data, the analytics complexity is also increasing, right? To bring together those data, harmonize them, and then derive insights out of it. There are discussions in the market about using the concepts around digital twin to kind of enable operations to become more agile and responsive to the situation. What is your personal feel about applying digital twin to the operations scenarios, not just the day-to-day planning and running of the operations, but also the irregular operations and those kind of scenarios as well?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the notion of a digital twin, and I'm also admittedly intimidated by it. It's a hard nut to crack, a difficult problem to tackle. As I mentioned, right, running an operation has all of these stakeholders involved. And if we want to build a really good digital twin, how do we ensure that we've properly modeled and simulated everyone's role and all of the constraints that are involved? But I think the value of building something like this, and maybe it doesn't need to be perfect the first time around, will allow us to do things like delay predictions, right? How do we know what an impact right now is going to be on our operation 10 hours from now? And how might that inform how we might need to call in crews to be rescheduled, or in more difficult circumstances, preemptively cancel a flight so that you don't need to have customers go through the trouble of coming to an airport only to be disappointed with a canceled flight. The last bit that I'll mention is irregular operations. I've heard this saying that airlines can make it or break it during a snowstorm, right? It can take just one singular event that can really cripple an airline if they're not using data well. And I think that what we really need to be able to do is simulate, a big snowstorm coming to New York City or a hurricane coming to Florida. How do we ensure that we can make the right decisions ahead of time to ensure that we get customers where we need to go, but of course ensuring that we have a safe operation and ensuring that we're prepared for the next day and we're properly recovered. Data is going to be at the heart of all of this, and sophisticated machine learning models. There are some people who are, can play the 3D chess in their mind and figure this out, but it's not really a scalable solution anymore. And we should rely more on data in order to make this happen.
Yeah, it's great that you're mentioning about the scalability. From customer experience to operations excellence, we have talked about a number of scenarios here. There is a lot to do there, and there is a lot at stake. How are you enabling JetBlue to lay the right foundation for you to embark upon those initiatives so that you are able to drive sustainable value?
It takes a real investment in both technology and in people. So a few years ago, we started this process of, you may be familiar with the term digital transformation. We've gone on a data transformation journey where we took, more on-premise traditional data warehouses and data transformation tools and really supercharged it by bringing it all to best-in-class products in the cloud. What does this mean? Cloud data warehouses that are highly scalable. We can store effectively unlimited data. We have compute resources that we can scale tremendously to operate on, tens of billions of row data sets should we need to. So I think the really important key here is that data leaders and company leaders really need to think about getting their data infrastructure right. Data scientists and the folks who are building the AI and ML models, that is certainly sexier work, and it's what gets people really excited. The problem is that you can't do that if you haven't gotten your house in order first. And the analogy that I often use is, we can go out and buy a bunch of Porsches and Ferraris, but if you're going to have them drive on dirt roads, you're really not going to go very fast. You need to build a Formula One track so that these cars, these really expensive, highly skilled resources will deliver to you what you're looking for. So I think the key here is double down on your data infrastructure, make sure that is suitable, and in parallel, start to work on your data science projects.
That was an inspiring note, Ben. Build the bridges first and build the highways first, right, before you buy a high-speed car. And we are all kind of witnessing a number of initiatives by global airlines to embrace the cloud environment, to build more scalability and resilience within their data environment, as well as to look at data becoming more accessible to their business. What would be your set of your learnings or best practices you might want to share with airlines which are in the beginning of embracing the cloud journey?
I think the key is that there has to be a certain boldness to the initiative. At times, people are willing to make maybe a small incremental improvement, but in today's day and age, if you feel and like you're a little bit behind the times, you can't settle for an incremental improvement. It needs to be a stepwise change, and you have to be willing to say, I'm going to rebuild this data warehouse, or I'm going to purchase a data science platform that we can use, and take on some of that risk that may be intimidating, but ultimately is going to pay off in dividends. The other piece that I would note is, one of the benefits of moving into the cloud is you have this nimbleness and this ability to work really quickly. That really needs to be balanced with the right safeguards and security and privacy at the forefront as well, right? In the olden days, as I guess you might be able to say at this point, you'd order a server, you'd have to hook it up, plug in the wires. But nowadays, you can do all of that effectively with the click of a button. And so with speed, attention can potentially come with some degree of risk. So having strong partnerships with your architects, with your security folks is obviously going to be extremely important, but the whole point of doing this is so that you can move faster. So if you've made the transition and you feel like you're operating at the same speed as before, then you really need to look at your internal processes as well.
Yeah, building on your earlier analogy, what you're saying now is to also to establish the traffic rules, right, along with building the highways. So that was a very great insight there. And this brings me to the last question, Ben, for this conversation. How do you see the role of technology ecosystem players to support JetBlue in its journey towards a data-driven airline?
I mean, we couldn't do this on our own. We have a great set of technologists and engineers who are crew members. That's what we call our employees at JetBlue. But we are very much supported by business partners, TCS, being a extremely critical partner in all of this, right? And I think the key to make this work well is to really blur the lines between what you might consider a crew member and a business partner, right? On our data team, you wouldn't know who is a business partner and who is a crew member, and that's by intention. We work together where we have our weaknesses and business partners have their strengths. We recognize those, and the opposite sometimes is true too. But partnership is going to be the key to the success, because the world is evolving quickly and nobody is smart enough and skilled enough to really stay on top of everything. So we have to do it together.
Let's journey together. That was a wonderful, ending note for this podcast. And I was very super excited to be discussing these points with you, Ben. And thank you for your time and for joining us on this podcast. And I am very sure that our audience have a lot of takeaways from this conversation. And on behalf of TCS and TTH Americas, I take this opportunity to wish you and JetBlue all the very best in this journey of data analytics for your airline. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thanks, Subbu. It was great to chat, and thanks again for your partnership at TCS. It's been great working with you all. Have a good one.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning into the Rebound Studio podcast series. Please do watch out for subsequent editions of this series, where we engage with many more leaders and talk about more issues of short-term relevance as well as long-term resonance. Until then, stay safe and take care. Thank you.